ReadJunk. ReadJunk. ReadJunk Podcast.
ReadJunk Podcast with your host, my guy.
And just like that, I'm back with a brand new episode. This is the ReadJunk Podcast, and I'm your host, Brian Kremko. Hope you had a chance to listen to the Cooley Ranks episode and the Chris Malone episode the last few weeks. Sorry about the audio issues with the Cooley episode. It was a little bit off, and it gave off this like kind of echo, kind of matrixing kind of sound. And I think it's because we had 3 microphones in my apartment, and then by doing that, the echo just like became too big and I couldn't fix it. I tried every way to fix it, but anyway, you know, Biggie, you get the gist of it though. So this Friday, July 19th is Radicsfest featuring Pilfers, Mephistopheles, Spring Hill Jack, Hub City Stompers, Rude Boy George, and Sergeant Scagnetti. It's at Gramercy Theatre and it's going to be awesome. And I'm sure you're probably like, okay, we know already, but I'm just telling you one last time, you know. It's going to be really hot out, so be prepared for that. And it's also going to be 6 bands, so prepare for that as well. Get a good night's sleep, drink some coffee, Red Bull, something to keep you going, because it's going to be going on till probably past midnight. If you're a fan of the site and the podcast, be sure to come up and say hi to my brother and I. Give us a happy birthday. We'll obviously be there taking pictures all night long, enjoying the concert. Since I've been working on this thing behind the scenes since January, so I'm really looking forward to this. But for this episode is with Travis of Hub City Stompers, one of the bands that's playing Radicsfest. I've been trying to schedule something with Travis for a while now. Nothing like cramming for a test and doing this the week of the show, but whatever. In this episode, we talk about Radicsfest, of course, his introduction to ska and punk, going to shows at City Gardens in Trenton, joining Inspector 7, starting up Hub City Stompers, how Inspector 7's cover of One Step Beyond ended up being in The Wolf of Wall Street, and lots of other things. Thanks for Travis for making the time, and so here's my chat with Travis. Yeah, so my site did an interview with you last year, but that was with my friend Joe, so I mean, I didn't get to interview you, so it's all right.
All good.
Yeah, so we're here to really talk about Radicsfest, which is happening on Friday. Yeah, so I can't wait. It's with all the hoopla and everything going on. I'm just like kind of waiting for it to be over. And
what do you mean by hoopla? I wonder.
I don't know.
Define hoopla. I think I know what you mean. But.
Yeah, drama, yeah, everything.
Well, there's good hoopla going on about it as well.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, happy birthday to you, huh?
Yeah, I was like, I just wanted like a 4-band show, and then we wanted it originally in TNEC, and then they didn't. I don't know. I guess you and Meth played there a couple weeks ago, so it's.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked out, I guess. Anyway, but
yeah,
or at least one of the shows wouldn't have worked out, but But yeah, I mean, I know it originally started as a birthday show idea and kind of evolved. That's all.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like we were all talking amongst ourselves, and then Cooley came on, and then I'm like, and then I was like, all right, well, Cooley's kind of taking the ball with it, and then he's like, oh yeah, Mess playing, oh yeah, Spring Hill Jack's playing. I'm like, wait, what? We're having 6 bands now. I'm like, all right, it's gonna be this. I'm gonna definitely have to coffee and a nap.
Yeah, it turned into a wonderful thing, though. You know? Yeah. It's a good birthday show.
Yeah, definitely. So that's happened on Friday. You have like a special guest or something you're playing with?
Well, Rob Tierney from the New York Citizens will be joining us for a tune.
Oh, yeah.
A New York Citizens tune. I had heard talk that, and the New York Citizens were one of my favorite bands when I was on the other side of the stage as a youngster, going to shows. I used to love the New York Citizens. And what they were before the New York Citizens. But I've heard rumblings that he might be reforming something that kind of combines all the work he had done back in the 90s and in late 80s, which would be a wonderful thing. I don't know. I have to talk to him about that. But we're going to do a New York Citizens songs with him. We had already covered DANCE. We've been covering that. We did it at Supernova last year, and been covering that for about a year and a half, I guess. But we'll be doing a different one. I won't say which one, but we'll be doing a different Citizen songs with him taking the helm at vocals. So that's going to be pretty awesome to share the stage with him.
And the guy from Sunseed, it's going to be there with Rude Boy George. That should be fun.
Yeah, they had performed that song with him over in England about half a year ago at the Big 17, I believe it was, over there in
For
Poole.
Specialized, yeah.
For Specialized, and so I love that they're getting to do it in New York City, and so it's amazing. Everyone seems to keep I can't say rediscovering that video, that song, Jesus is a Friend of Mine in Sonseed. It keeps popping up randomly, like every few years, be like, oh my God, look at this. It's a ska song. And it's like, I swear it was a few years ago. It was a thing. And a few years before that, it was a thing, and it keeps recycling. It's people keep discovering it. It's funny.
It's definitely the definition of like a viral video, because it just keeps spreading and spreading. And it's like Ska Punk Daily on Instagram posted it the other day, and everyone's like, what is this song? It's like, haven't you seen this shit for like 10 years?
No, apparently not. I keep seeing it on boards and all that. And as much as amazing as it is that he'll be performing with them, it's actually not the first time that's happened. I have to give credit to Tri-State Conspiracy.
Okay.
The New York ska band Tri-State Conspiracy. I mean, they haven't played in some time.
Yeah.
But, but they did it with him. I think it was about 10 years ago.
I think it was on YouTube. Yeah.
They used to put on Tri-State Conspiracy would put on these was it monthly shows down at Bowery Poetry Club across from CB's.
Okay.
And we did one of them, I remember. But at one of them, the dude, I'm pretty sure it was the first time outside of that video that the dude had performed that song, and he got up with Tri-State Conspiracy, and they did the jam. It was I couldn't believe it. I was so jealous. I was like, man.
Was Jenny on stage when they did that back then?
Not the original time. No, it was Meg.
Oh, right, Meg. Okay. I'm thinking, getting the Rude Boy George crew mixed up.
Yes. It was the former singer of Rude Boy George, Meg, was on stage. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that should be.
So that's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that too.
And I was just looking at my photos, and I remember you guys were supposed to, the four of the bands that are playing Radicsfest, you guys were supposed to be playing the Chance in 2014, and then that show had some drama too, because it was supposed to be canceled at the last minute, and then it ended up just being the Pilfers and Hub City Stompers playing, because it was supposed to be Meth and then Rude Boy George, and then everyone just like dropped off because there was like low ticket sales or something. Because
something like that, I forget. I'd have to look at the text thread from back then. But
I remember Cooley's like, "All right, show's not happening. Okay, now the show's happening."
Oh, maybe that's what it was. It was canceled and then uncanceled, and then but we stayed on. We decided to stick with it, and it wasn't the most packed show in the world, but it was still a good showing, and it was fun. And,
it's still got like 100 something people in it.
It was cool. Got some good pictures from that night too.
Yeah. You guys were just out west, right? Back in like May or something like that.
We did a whole West Coast tour. May we started in the Pacific Northwest and ended in the Southwest. We started up in Tacoma, and then we did Tacoma, Portland, Eureka, California, Sacramento, San Francisco, Pomona, San Diego, Las Vegas.
So was it like 2 weeks? And
then we ended it in Phoenix.
Okay.
I hope I didn't leave out any. I think that was everything. It was about 10 days. Yeah. Okay. It was a good one. We hadn't done one like that in a while. We usually fly out and maybe do long weekenders or something like that in one of our stronger markets. But we was like, you know what? It's been a while. Let's do a doozy. And it was great. It was a great tour. It was one of those tours that you shouldn't take for granted. It was really good. Every show was good. Considering Monday night in Sacramento, that's not going to be but it was they were all good. They're all decent shows.
It seems like the West Coast, the people come out more for them than the East Coasts, but I guess it depends on the area.
I mean, I say that, but who knows? If you're a band, out there who plays the same area a lot or something, I don't know. Maybe you do or don't draw, or maybe people are as fickle as they are out here. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But we always have a great showing out there. I mean, that's why we love playing out there or Texas, Florida, Midwest. But is it because we only get out there, once a year or twice a year or whatever, who knows, and in Jersey, it's like, oh, I'll see them, next
month. I'll see you any other month. Yep.
yeah, who knows?
Do you notice any difference between like the West and East Coast like crowds or the band quality or anything like that, or?
Not really. I mean, it's hard. Again, it's hard to make a judgment when you're only out there, once or twice a year. I mean, I could easily say like, oh, it's great. It's but if I was, who knows? Maybe they complain about their scene out there, as well. The band quality, it's Cali. There's still a lot of bands in Cali.
Yeah.
And it's odd. I mean, it's like, what are all the ska bands in New Jersey? You used to be able to not even be able to think of them all. And now it's like, it's odd. It's odd compared to, 10, 15 years ago, where it's just, you couldn't even, you could rattle them off for a half hour. And now it's like, you can count them on your hand. So it's like, I don't know. Does that say the Jersey scene sucks? What does that mean? I don't know. It's just a normal wax and wane of underground music, if you ask me,
Yeah, it just, I really hate the shows where just no one shows up. It's just us and the band and the other bands that are playing. And it's just so, I don't know. I don't know. I want the crowds to be a little more coming out than they have been in the past, I guess. I don't know. I guess it depends on the scene, though. It's the same thing with like New York sports. It's like Red Bulls, no one shows up half the time because there's like 50 other teams in the same town. I guess it's the same thing with music.
Well, there's a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, Philly, New Jersey, New York, there's, always the people who tour and don't miss this area, and there's always something going on and plethora of shows. And I make jokes when I'm on the road called jaded Jers, is spoiled jaded Jers. But I mean, I really can't complain too much. We as HCS, we get enough love out here as well, obviously, and it's where it all started. So
yeah,
I don't have anything to complain about really.
So I mean, are those long tours fun to do still, or I mean, do you have any like drama or anything with that, or any mishaps on the road?
It'd been a while, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I don't know when was that. I wish I had the other 6 parts of my memory here, the other HCS members, to remind me when in their mental documentation when the last tour of that length was. They could probably tell me in 2 seconds. But it'd been a while. So I had several concerns just about how it was going to go, monetarily, draw, my voice. Was that going to last the whole freaking time? I mean, typically in tours past, I had this weird cycle where I'd make it through the first 3 shows, and then show number 4, which was typically on a Monday, was always the doozy. It was always my voice would just tank. Thankfully, it was a Monday night, and there usually weren't a lot of people there to witness it. And then Tuesday it would slowly start to come back. When by Wednesday it was back, and I'd finish out the rest. But it was always that little dip.
Well, you got other singers in the band, so you at least can fall back on that.
Exactly. But that didn't happen this tour. I don't know why it took me 25 years of being in a band to to figure out how to not have that happen. A little hydration and enough rest, and moderate the alcohol, and work. Don't, if the sound isn't ideal, don't overblow your voice, and all these things you got to just keep conscious of. And I made it through the tour.
Do you So being behind the scenes of like the Radicsfest stuff and just how much work it is to put on one show. I mean, how does one put a big tour together like this with like everyone's job schedules? Like, how does everything align like that?
Well, you start, if you're doing a tour of this length, you start figuring it out about a half year ahead of time, particularly with your own band members. Once I get everyone on board, then it's just a matter of, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've, over the years and through other people as well, that I've learned, tour booking and management from. It's everything else falls into place. You start lining up the shows, the vehicle, the finances. It's just there's like a kind of usually a priority order, but it's tour booking, so it's kind of all over the place sometimes. But it all falls into place. But I've learned tricks over the years from the likes of William Wilkie, who was Memphis Coffalee's. He wasn't just their merch guy. He was also their tour manager. And when we started touring in Inspector 7, he went on a couple of those with us, and I watched and learned from him. I got to cite him as a source. And,
is that the guy that's been in, like, I see him he was at every ska show, it seemed like, doing merch guys, and then he was working for like NoFX and stuff too, maybe?
Yep.
Okay. I just didn't know his name. Okay.
Yeah, he wound up doing merch for NoFX and a bunch of other larger bands. Okay. Definitely. That's Willie Wilkie. So yeah, when I in Inspector 7, we went through one or two, booking agents. HCS has never had a booking agent. I've just done it all myself the whole time. I just figured, I know what I'm doing. I, learned enough lessons from the I7 and just kind of, I7 wasn't touring anymore when HCS formed. So I started doing HCS tours. I think 2005 was the first. We formed in 2002, but we started really touring in 2005. So, I was a little rusty, but I've gotten pretty decent at it, figuring it all out. And most of the tours have been pretty good and not so disastrous. So
that's always a plus.
Nothing's coming out of anyone's pockets, and so it works out.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of go through just like early stages of your music career and stuff like that. But how did you get into ska and like reggae and punk rock? Like, what was your introduction to those kind of stuff?
Well, my initial introduction was noises blaring out of my older brother's room from his boombox.
Yeah, same here.
His dual cassette boombox there. He got into punk in the early 80s. He was I guess he was probably in late middle school, high school, and I was in late grade school, maybe approaching middle school. And I'd hear this, I was already I would always like, rock and stuff. I didn't grow up listening to, I don't know, we sing silly songs and stuff like that. I liked Kiss in second grade, and I was Ace Frehley actually for Halloween in 1978. Nice. But, the Stones were my favorite band in fourth grade. I went to the Tattoo You tour when it came through Philly in, was that 81? And then
they've been on so many tours.
I think it was September 81, JFK Stadium. Well, what it was then, what used to exist as JFK Stadium.
Is that in Jersey City?
No, it's in Philly.
Oh, Philly. Okay.
And
I'm trying to think of another one. Yeah.
So and I was into rock and stuff on the radio already as a kid, and then when I heard the stuff, Husker Du and Black Flag and Specials and English Beat and whatnot blaring out of his room, I was like, what is this? So when he would leave, of course, because he, God forbid I go and actually ask him and disturb him, I would sneak into his room and play his tapes and be like, wow. And so that's when I started actually, discovering the music. And then, friends of mine, I found like-minded people in high school, friends of mine, around my suburban town that were into it. And then, when my parents got divorced, my father moved to Trenton, and there was, he eventually settled on Bellevue Avenue in the West Ward, which was a not so far jaunt from a club called City Gardens.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
And so I was really into the music, but I didn't go to an actual, what I considered a real punk show until 1987, I believe it was. And it was Fishbone.
Nice.
It was my first show. And that was it. That was the end. That's City Gardens became my new home. And then, discovering other scenes like the New Brunswick, New Jersey scene, and New York City, of course. I was on the train a lot and on the Northeast Corridor line and catching every show I could, and just got enveloped in the whole music scene there.
That's funny that Rogers from Rude Boy George, he said that the Fishbone was his first concert. I think it was in Newark though.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know we had that in common.
And then he's like, yeah, and someone said, though, that he thought he was in the band, and he kept going along with it because he was like the only black guy there.
Of course. Naturally. He must be in the band. He's black, too. Yeah. Well, when I had them, I still had I believe I had the Frohawk going on by then. Did I have the Fro Hawk by that point? Yeah, I probably did. So who knows? I'm surprised people didn't think I was in the band as well.
I read the book No Slam Dancing about City Gardens a couple of years ago, and you were in there a few times, I think. Were you banned or something? Did I read that? Or someone was banned?
A lot of people were banned from City Gardens. I eventually became one of them. A lot of people I knew had been banned earlier, for years earlier prior to that. I didn't get banned until I believe it was April 1994. And ironically enough, I believe it was the night after Inspector 7 had played there. And yeah, I mean, we were, young, rambunctious, and skinheads, and all kinds of shenanigans going on in there. It just the funny irony is the night I got banned, I actually didn't lay a hand on anybody. So go figure. But the night prior was what was it? Was that I'm trying to remember the show. Was that the Inspector 7, Bigger Thomas Voodoo Glow Skulls, or some ska show we played? Yeah. Well, I remember it more distinctly because I speaking of acts of violence, I actually wound up swinging on the trumpet player from Voodoo Glow Skulls back at the time. I didn't know them back then. Obviously, we're all buddies now. But he's not. He hasn't been in the band in years. Yeah. But this fellow was during the Bigger Thomas set. I guess Bigger Thomas was headlining because I think it was us, VGS, and then Bigger Thomas. The dude kept flying off the stage, doing crazy stage dives and stuff. And but it was, and which is fine to Voodoo Glow Skulls, you'd expect that, but the Bigger Thomas not so much. And I think the third time he went flying off, he caught our friend Deirdre in the head with a knee. Oh, and that was that. It was 1994 by then, so it was more a newer generation of Trenton skins, younger than the ones I actually came up with, where they started jumping them and going after them. And me and one of the bouncers were actually trying to, get him out of there and pull everybody off of him and stuff. And so we pull everyone off and peel everyone off him, and his adrenaline must have been going because he just got jumped by like 6 dudes. and he stands up, and after we save his ass, he turns around, he clocks me right in the jaw. And it's just, he didn't know who was saving him and who was fighting him. So I just looked over to bouncer, and the bouncer kind of like looked the other way and let me do my thing. And then he got tossed out. And then the Voodoo Glow Skull guys, they were ready to roll, man. They were knocking on the side of the City Gardens exit to the parking lot, and they were like, there was like 3 bouncers at the door, like keeping us from them. And they were ready to throw down, baby. They weren't Scott Dork punks, man. They were ready to go. And it was just funny. Then years later, I7 played with them, and I recounted the story with Frank, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And we were all buddies after that, though. That was a funny night. And there was the next, but I had nothing to do with me getting banned. It was the next show. We weren't playing. It was Life of Agony show, and I believe Sheer Terror was opening up, and I was never been a big Life of Agony fan. I went to see Sheer Terror actually, but for some reason I wound up dancing to Life of Agony, and that's where this brouhaha broke out, where I wound up getting banned. Oh, okay. And I have the scar on the back of my head from that very night. Ooh.
A beer bottle or?
No, the floor. The floor. I was dancing. I was in like mid jump in the pit, and someone did a WWE move on me. Literally just kind of lifted me up and slammed my head back down on the floor. And like it says in the book, I went and I got up, the ceiling spinning, put my hand in the back of my head. There was a whole bunch of blood there, and I was just like, all right, who did this, man? Who did it? I'm looking around, and my friends were like, yo, man, your head's like split open. You better go back, get this taken care of. And I was like, nah, I'm going to find who did this. And I was like, thought better of it. I usually didn't think better of much back then, but I had a moment of logic and clarity. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go get this looked at, and so my brains aren't leaking out of my head or whatever. Who knows what's going on? And then so all my friends were, of course, asking me, who did this, who did that? And I was like, oh, that guy over there. I'll see him later. Blah blah blah. Well, they didn't wait. They set it off. I was in the parking lot waiting to go get my head stapled up at the hospital, and pretty much half the club jumped him. It was just the wrong night for him to, but I guess because I like pointed once or twice or something, the owner said I incited a riot. And I'm like, this is ironic. Of all the crazy acts of violence I committed in that place,
you were probably concussed a little bit.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I found it ironic that the night I don't lay a hand on anybody is the night I get banned. All the things that I'd done inside that building, which I never really got in trouble for, and then that night I get banned. But hey, you know what? I guess it was a long time coming. But then the club closed about a year later. I think in '95 is when they officially shut down.
Yeah, it was before my time, right before my time, because I started going to shows like '96, so I never ventured down. I probably wouldn't venture down to Trenton anyway, but like New York City was like, I had to beg my dad, can we go to see Skank and Pickle at Wetlands?
But yeah, I mean, I was going to New Brunswick and New York a lot more by then anyway, and I was already in Inspector 7. At that point, I joined Inspector 7. Well, when they first started calling themselves Inspector 7 at like end of '93, beginning of '94. So
it was like Agent 86 or something like that.
Yeah, started out Agent 86 in 1992, and they were just friends of mine. I was thrilled that there was another ska band in New Jersey.
Bigger Thomas was the only one, I guess, at the time.
Pretty much, yeah, at that time. And I loved Bigger Thomas, but I mean, listen, it's underground music, any band that's playing the stuff you're into, you'd be thrilled. So they would practice down in the basement of 106 Welton Street, which was known as the Gingerbread House. Okay. And I would go and attend their practices, and when they play, I was an avid friend and fan, and show up and act like a drunken buffoon at their shows, and support. They were 92. They were called Agent 86. 93. They were called Crash Bars. And the kind of side frontman toaster guy was a guy named Jeff Silverman. Okay. And I think he left the band in maybe fall of 93. And then around that time, maybe December 93, is when they were changing the name to Inspector 7, and they were saying, hey man, what about you? Why don't you join the band? I was like, that's the other funny thing is that the promoter at City Gardens at this club I was talking about, he had always said, oh, Travis, you and my friend Alex Franklin, you should start a ska band. I was just like, and I came up as a New York hardcore dude. I was like, I like ska and I like punk and everything else, but hardcore was my main thing. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do a ska band. When we get out of here. And then, so it was funny. It was end of '93. They're asking me to join what was now called Inspector 7. And like, you got to replace Jeff. You do pick it ups and this and that. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, dude, I'm not going to be the Flavor Flav of ska. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stand up there, pick it up. No, I'll pass. And like, nah, you can, write your own songs and this and that. They gave me more of an involved role, and that probably might have scared me more, and I was like, you know what? Fine. I sat in a couple practices. I wrote some lyrics. I added whatever. And it actually, felt good. And then I believe my first show with them was that winter at the Melody Bar, I believe, in New Brunswick. And it felt good and worked. And the rest is history. They got me into this shit. So.
You're kind of, in a way, you kind of have a similar path than like Henry Rollins in Black Flag, because wasn't he a fan and then he became the singer of the band? Yeah, there's a few stories like that. It was, I wasn't just a fan, but I was their friend. My friend. I knew Scoochie, Eric Schroeder. I knew him from the City Gardens day. I knew Giuseppe from the shore scene, and I knew Quincy. I knew from the New Jersey scene as well. Quincy I already was familiar and friends with him. So I mean, Stephanie Lander. I was already friends with them. I already knew these people from the New Brunswick scene. So did you guys have a lot of songs before your first album on Radical Records, or you had like some demo tapes? Or?
There's you mean different songs, or like
like different songs or the same ones? Or
there's some that didn't make it onto the infamous, we had a trombone player named Johnny Lou, and we had a song about him called the Johnny Lou. It was really, basic 3-chord thing, but it was fun. Song called Lemonade, which was an instrumental. and that was written before. Like I said, it probably in the Agent 86 Crash Bar days. So there's maybe 3 or 4 songs that didn't really. Some of them we kept playing in the I7 days, but it didn't make the cut onto the Infamous. It kind of died.
How did the record label reach out to you guys? Like how did that?
Well, it was the mid '90s, man. Ska was the thing, you know. Ska, so labels were starting to grab it up. So we were approached by both Radical Records and Moon Records, and we were debating between the two. We were leaning towards Moon, but then we felt slighted by Moon. Though Moon had they had Moon Records. And they had
Ska
Satellite, which they started as their new label for up and coming bands.
So you don't want to be on the same label as Endless Goldfish? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's just that I don't know. We were like, we understand. We were like up and coming. We've been up and coming for 5 years. Come on, how come you're off from the Skoidats, Moon, who had been around not as long as I7.
Yeah.
But you're offering us Ska Satellite, and I don't know. We felt slighted, so we went with Radical. Which
were you guys the first ska band on that label? Because it seemed like it was a lot of punk, hardcore, oi kind of stuff.
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, they had the oi ska.
The Blanks were on, and but there were a lot of these bands signed around in the same 2-3 year period, though. Blanks and the Booked and Submachine and. But yeah, Oist Compilation was really the big, that was all the Oist compilations. We were on all 3 of them, but that was technically before we did a full length album. We didn't do the Infamous was 1997,
right? And
Oist Compilation, the first one was 94, and then Scalloween, that one was what was that 95, 96, something like that.
Yeah, it was 95, 96. Yeah,
and then the third one, which was recorded up in Connecticut. At a fest up there, that was 96, 97. So
featuring.
So we'd already been. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Cooley was on it with the white Dennis
with the blonde
Rodman
hair.
Yeah,
blondes have more fun. So yeah, I mean, we'd worked with them and we'd done a lot of shows and stuff with them, and we'd had a good relationship with them. But we'd worked with Moon as well. So it's just And in retrospect, sometimes we're like, "Oh, we should have gone with Moon," and blah blah blah. But again, we wanted to be on Moon. So.
Do you think the band's path would have been different if you went on Moon? Or?
In some ways, yes. Some ways, yes. Some ways, no. I mean, like I said, it was crazy. It was like a big overcrowded party back then with all the ska bands around and everything going on. It was nuts. So in a way, I kind of like that we were on a label that wasn't all ska.
Yeah.
I mean, we were, because we were a band that didn't play, even to this day with HCS, we don't play with just all ska shows. We even prefer mixed bills, truth be told, I mean, our influences are all over the place, so it makes sense. We have hardcore influence and oi influence and punk influence and hell, even hip hop influence. So, it was cool to be on a band and tour with other punk, like that Submachine. That year we toured with Submachine and the Book. That was a great tour. That was like ideal punk, oi, ska, boom. Exactly what I wanted.
You can get ska out after a while. There's too many ska bands on the bill. Yeah.
I'm saying here and there, great,
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean, I think people it all comes from punk rock. I understand ska, original real ska was around before punk, but without that revival, without two-tone and everything that happened after, that's related to punk rock, and a lot of people wouldn't know what ska was. So, linking the various genres is a good idea. And again, even with back with I7, we had different that oi and slight hardcore and punk influence. Just with HCS, it's just we when we became HCS, we exaggerated it more. That's all.
Do you have any crazy stories from I7 days, like shows or what were some of your favorite venues and?
Oh geez, wow! I barely remember 5 minutes ago, much less back then. But I mean, I don't know what would be entertaining stories. I mean, I try to.
Yeah.
What's entertaining to me might not be entertaining to other people. Like, oh, there's the time we,
Like,
the guy swung on Stephanie in New Orleans, and we all kicked his ass. You know, it's the Squidats, and it's a very unifying moment. And but then there's a time we were driving down the highway in Utah at like 88 miles per hour with the submachine, trading porn between the two vans from window to window.
This would be DVDs or VHS.
I think it was magazines, actually.
Oh, okay.
See how old we are?
Back in my day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a ton. It just, again, I need people to spark my memory. There's lots of stories, of course, particularly with all the time going back 25 years. So. But yeah, there's and the favorite venues. I mean, Wetlands was for I-7.
Yeah,
was of course always a favorite. But also the hometown venues. The ones we miss. Like the Melody Bar. It was small, but it was our spot.
Yeah.
The Court Tavern, which still exists in name, but doesn't really exist, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So
under new ownership, I guess.
Yeah, it's been under new ownership, but it just the nail finally went in the coffin last year.
Okay.
Right after HCS filmed our first video there.
Okay.
We did a show there, filmed a video there, and then the nail got put in the coffin on that spot. So
yeah, Coney Island High was a good one too that I remember. I don't know.
Coney Island High in New York City was outstandanding. That was one of our favorite places to play as well.
And now it's like, I don't know what the hell it is, a retail shop or something.
Well, all of
Manhattan,
all of the Village and Lower East Side is all a retail shop now. So,
yeah.
So, you might as well just go to the mall instead of going to New York City. Might as well go to Greenwich or Princeton or something.
Speaking of Coney Island High, I have a Pilfer's bootleg. It's on YouTube of the record release show, and I think you were there in the crowd. I think, and at one point you jumped on the stage.
Oh yeah.
You had balloons or something as tits or something. I'm like,
I was drunk. But yeah, I remember that Pilfer show, and Cooley asked for all the girls to get up and say, all the ladies get up on stage.
I think it was like for What's New, or something like that.
I was being progressive, that's all, and I got up there with the ladies. As a lady.
Like since the 90s, though, you've been like Inspector 7 and Mephistopheles have always played shows together. It was like if Mephistopheles was playing, I'm like, oh, Inspector 7's. There was one show Meph played, I think, in Newburgh. I think it was at the Avalon or skate park. And then I don't even think you guys were on the bill. And then like we show up at the skate park and you guys were playing. I'm like,
who knows?
Yeah, it's like I don't know what it is, but it was
last minute setup show.
Yeah, and you guys are still like that. You guys just played TNEC at the Debonair Music Hall, and
there's you form certain bonds with certain bands. Some bands you wind up as mortal enemies with, and others you wind up as lifelong friends with. Those are our droogies, man. Them, the Squidats, obviously. We had a relationship with them. If they were still playing, we'd still be playing with them all the time. I mean, that's a bond that never would have gone anywhere. And we're still, Chuck lives in Jersey now.
Oh. So, can't you, see if you can get them to play at least one reunion show?
You think that hasn't been attempted already?
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors in play there. I mean, and just them literally being all over the planet at this point.
Yeah.
Is one of them. I mean, at one point they were on 3 different continents when Chuck was living in Asia and the Johns were in Europe and Gardner was in New York and Justin was in Florida or Kansas or Montana, so it's logistically alone it's an issue, much less with other things behind the scenes. So
just got to schedule it 2 years in advance, I guess.
People try, but it's to no avail. I think it came close once, or it was they were actually talking about it at least, and then it just tanked. So Who knows? Listen, keep hope alive. You never know.
Yeah, if people keep nagging them, maybe they will.
In the meantime, we'll just keep playing Squidad songs like.
Yeah, I was going to mention that you cover them, so I'm happy that you're at least doing that.
Listen, none of my friends' bands that won't get back together and play, we'll play the songs for them until they get back together. We'll keep the fire warm.
So I mean, so after Inspector 7 kind of stopped touring and stuff, you started Hub City Stompers because you had still the itch to keep doing
Yeah,
music?
it was weird. It was odd. I understand that, like, there's a whole 90s boom, and a lot of people were riding that wave, including Inspector 7, and crashed kind of fast at the end of the century there.
Yeah.
And end of the millennium. And I don't know, everyone just, I don't know, it felt, not for me, but for some of the other people, it seemed like more of a chore and a drag almost. It's like they wanted to keep doing it, but kind of like at their convenience. And I don't know, some people just straight up just got tired of touring, and everything just slowed down very slowly. It got to the point where we weren't even, not only were we not playing shows by, 2001, but we weren't even practicing really. It was weird. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, well, what's going on? Are we still going here? Or what? All our friends are still playing, and some of our friends weren't. So maybe there was the illusion that everything was just kind of dead. But I don't know. People nobody was into it. No one was talking to each other about, getting together to play. And I was like, well, is that it? Are we fizzling out? Can we at least have like the last show or something? And there was nothing. That was just kind of like flatlined. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. All right, I guess I want to keep going. I like what this is. I want to keep going. So, I and Scoochie and Dustin DK, and there's a few of the people who were in I-7 at the time got together, and then we had Adam X. We decided I decided I'm going to seek out and try to put together a new band. I talked to them to see who felt like playing and who'd still be down. And so I had them. We reached out to our former I-7 member, Chris Jefferson. And I was literally trying to hunt people down. Like the first bass player we had, Chris Finnegan. I was a driver for mail services for Rutgers University. Mm-hmm. And I was literally driving down George Street, and I saw this dude he was walking down with like a stand-up bass and all these like punk and ska patches on his jacket. I was like, literally stop the van and like, yeah, exactly. So, and by the summer of 2002, had a lineup and started writing stuff. And
did Jenny join the band right away, or?
No. So initially it was God, I'm trying to remember. We had Mike Ambrose, Adam X, who actually started out on drums and then moved to guitar. Scoochie, Dustin DK, Chris Finnegan, Jaffe, that's what we call Chris Jefferson. And so that was John Pizzuto from New York City actually was in the initial lineup. And then within that first year, I think that's who recorded. So if we recorded like probably within months of forming, we recorded that first version of Night of the Living, which was on that Megalith sampler, that huge Megalith sampler that they put out when Megalith first formed.
It's like Still Standing?
Still Standing compilation. Yeah. And I was shocked that they needed 4 CDs to fit all the bands on it. And I was like, what? I was like, really? Is this many bands actually still playing, or is it just bands that were around that want to seem like they're still? I was confused. I was like, there's so many bands playing. Why is ska so dead at that point? It seemed. And like I said, I knew ska was dead. I didn't really care. I wanted to. Again, I played for the love of the music, not the popularity of it. So and so I found the like minds from I-7 that wanted to join me in that. We kept going. I could have, by all intents and purposes, still called it Inspector 7,
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do that. I felt that would, I don't know. kind of
you weren't like the original member, so I guess you didn't have some type of.
Yeah, it would have seemed not as, I don't know. It just would have seemed a douche move without certain people, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. It had been only a year since we kind of stopped playing, and I'm gonna call it Inspector 7 without Quincy and Stephanie and Predator, and I don't know, it's Boxcar, and it wasn't. I was looking to do something kind of different anyway. I was looking to have some distinction anyway. I wanted to obviously keep, as you can tell, the same kind of spirit and theme and stuff going on, but also with some distinction. So I didn't want it to be like Inspector 7-2 or Inspector 8 or but Scoochie is actually the person who came up with the idea to call it Hub City Stompers. Like, well, we don't have to call it Inspector 7, but obviously it's a directly related concept, and we were all called that crew at one point in 1992 and 1993 and 1994. And we wrote the song about it in Inspector 7, or I wrote the song about it. And me and Scoochie wrote that song. And so he said, let's call it Hub City Stompers. That's our song. We wrote it, and it's directly related to I-7, but it's not I-7. I said, okay. So we ran with that name. So it was around 2004 when we had the first kind of major lineup change, because things were going well enough, but I wanted to get back to touring like I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And but not everyone could tour. Some people are actually growing up. I was, I guess by that point I was too. I was having my first kid was soon to be coming, and I was, settling into my job at Rutgers and stuff. But I just didn't want to stop playing music. I didn't want to stop touring. So, but some of the people couldn't do the tour schedule I was looking for. So we, peacefully parted ways, and that's when Reggae Bob and Jetty Whiskey and Matty Glock came into the fold. Not necessarily in that order, but or maybe it was in that order. I don't know. But that was the lineup in fall of 2004. That's we had that big lineup change, and that was the core lineup for a long time, actually. Ambrose stayed in there for a while before he left, and there was even a time when we were a 5-piece. We played as just a 5-piece, which is the 5 of us. Of course, I don't know how I failed to mention Nuno Rodriguez, the Green Goblin. After Adam had a short stint on drums, and then Nuno took over, and Adam switched to guitar. And was he on horn sometimes too? No, he's mostly guitar. But Nuno was our drummer from 2004 up till about 2012. So, but that was the core lineup for a while. That's that lineup on Mass Appeal, Dirty Jersey, that was a very defining lineup for a long time.
So then you put out a few albums, and then Inspector 7 came back again for a few years.
Well, we Inspector 7 started having quote unquote reunion shows.
Yeah.
The actual line above Inspector 7 started having reunion shows in 2003, with the lineup of the people who I said I wouldn't want to call it Inspector 7 without. They, they'd get back together. And sometimes, not everyone was into it. We'd have to find a fill in here and there. But for the most part, it was I-7. And so we were starting in 2003. Giuseppe was approaching us about doing reunion shows. So we did about, we get together, do like 1 or 2 a year, maybe. Mostly local, maybe one in New Jersey, one in New York City.
You did Apple Stomp. You played with Meth, I think, before Hurricane on a boat in 2012.
Oh yeah. Like I said, but we'd been doing them since 2003. Since then, I think we did one. I forget where the first one was. It was Red Bang. We do them at the old knitting factory in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And they were great. There was oh cool, Inspector 7 again, and then that was also about the time where things were kind of coming back and picking up again in the early 2000s, early and mid 2000s, with a lot of new bands forming and stuff, particularly in New Jersey. And so we kept that pattern. We kept doing that, and every couple of years. And at the same time, though, Hub City was growing in prominence and popularity, and doing our thing and touring and putting out records and everything. And then it was probably around 2011, 2012, I think, is when Giuseppe had asked me prior a couple of times that you want to bring the band back full time. And I was just like, well, I'm in Hub City full time. I'm not going to be able to swing that. And I said, and I don't even think we can sustain full time. I mean, we kind of petered out for a reason, you know. I mean, everyone, you couldn't even get anyone to practice. Like, how are we going to be full time now, you know? And then around it's probably around the time Nuno was leaving HCS. He was you know, having a kid and starting his family and everything, and you know, Giuseppe asked me another time. I don't know how many times this was, but I said, well, the only way that I could pull this off, you know, I mean, I've been doing HCS for like 10 years now. The only way I can pull this off is if I don't know, there's still some sort of HCS element involved. I can't ditch this whole lineup here and be like, all right, bye guys, I'm going to do I-7. I can't ditch 10 years of material that I've been writing. I mean, HCS had 10 years of traction going. What am I just going to be like, all right, bye HCS, I'm going to, just so I can be, you know, call my band I-7 again? Like, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I had barely gone over those initial terms and he was like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's great. Like he was all about it. He just wanted to have Inspector 7 back, you know? So all right, we talked for most of the summer of 2012, trying to figure things out and see if it would work. And I was pretty specific about what I would need and, you know, what we should do and this and that. And he seemed very on board. So that's when we had that kind of redux in 2013, okay. You know, at the end of 2012, we announced, okay, this is what we're doing. You know, we're going to kind of have this fusion and it's all going to be under the name Inspector 7. But if you think about it and look at what it was essentially Giuseppe joining HCS and we were calling it I-7. So it was the two of us back together. But it was most of the lineup was still, you know, HCS. Okay. So that was literally the only way I was going to be able to do it. And again, he was all on board. And in retrospect, obviously, it's just like, well, I mean, it's ironic that I went and did that when originally I didn't want to call Inspector 7 because there weren't certain people involved, you know? Yeah. And so from the get-go, it felt kind of weird. It was tight, sounded great. It was wonderful. And on paper, it sounded like a wonderful idea because it's like, wow, HCS and I-7 combined, super band, you know? But it didn't work. That's literally how it felt. It felt like Giuseppe on stage with HCS singing I-7 songs and HCS songs, and you know. And then you know, just on as far as what we agreed to, a lot of things weren't agreed to suddenly, and you know, went back on. He didn't like to use the term HCS in promo, which hurt, you know, advertisement and promotion. Like, why wouldn't you want to draw from this fan base? And you know, it was like a bad word. It was like saying Voldemort in front of him. You couldn't say Hub City Stompers. It was insane. And that and a whole bunch of other personality conflicts and stuff. You know, I'd been working with him for decades. I know G, but you know, other people were kind of newer to him and his ways. And so by around August 2013, I knew it was like, this isn't gonna happen. You know, this isn't gonna work. And also, again, there was the initial issue of the authenticity of it, you know, and calling it Inspector 7. Is this really Inspector 7? So, but again, by halfway through the year, around August, I was just like, I'm not going to last. I'm not going to make it. This isn't going to be a sustained thing. So I sat down, had a conversation with him at the end of the year, and essentially told him, I can't speak for everyone else. I don't know what everyone else is doing. I'm going to do Hub City Stompers. Like I've been doing, like I never stopped playing the Inspector 7 songs that I wrote and composed. I mean, from the get-go, I was playing those in Hub City Stompers. I never stopped. I've played those songs for 25 years. I always have. I always will. I gave him the heads up on that. There's no big issue. No problem. You know, we had a nice conversation about it, you know, and I said, you do what you will, but I'm going to keep doing HCS. And then everyone had the individual choice of what they wanted to do. And, you know, I didn't, you know, they didn't want to stay with call it I-7. They didn't want to go back to HCS. And the whole lineup wound up coming with me. It's like I want all the kids in the divorce. You know? And so in 2014 we came back as HCS again, and that's never happening again. And and again, when that first happened in 2013, I talked to some of the original I7 members who were kind of put off by it, and I saw their point, and they had a point. Like I said, from the get-go, I felt weird, like, is this really I7? So to that end, though, he went on to, I guess, find other new people and keep calling it I7. And
I noticed. He's playing with like Django and some other people. Yeah,
it's been it's been like kind of a revolving lineup since then. But so whatever. I mean, that's that. And
I mean, is it bad blood, or is it like?
Well, it wasn't at first, but then I kept hearing things. He refuses to be on the same bill as us.
Yeah.
Other more more personal digs at the band. All kinds. Stuff gets back to me, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, when we would see each other at shows, we'd be cool, and then he asked me to even play one or two times where I had schedule conflicts I couldn't do. But also it wasn't, again, I'd get back together and call it I7 if it was actually I7. I do that. I would do that today. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If it was the right thing. What's going on now? Do I see it as I7? No, I don't personally, but hey, who knows? Perception's perception. People want to go see what's called I7, go for it. I'm still, I hope it doesn't look too silly. I'm still playing all the I7 songs that I ever played. So yeah, it wasn't supposed to be this weird contentious thing, but it did kind of get there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't have to tell you. It's
I have a question.
I don't care about it that much. I mean, I just,
Yeah. I have a question. Like, how did you guys get your song in The Wolf of Wall Street?
So the fellow from our former record, Radical Records,
okay,
contacted me about that. Actually, we recorded that song a long time ago. Actually, I think it was like in the late '90s or something. It was for a
compilation,
a compilation on Cleopatra Records.
Okay, and
it must have been a Madness tribute or something like that.
Yeah.
And we drew One Step Beyond. And I remember actually Giuseppe was upset that we picked One Step Beyond, and he actually refused to go to the studio that day.
Because he wasn't singing on it, or?
Well, because, I kind of understood his point. He's like, oh, we have two singers and we're picking an instrumental song to put on this compilation. Like, what the hell? So he was pissed off about it, and he didn't even go to the studio that day we recorded it. And I went to the studio, but I didn't really get on. I did some pick it ups or whatever, Yeah. But that's Scoochie. That's Scoochie's voice who you hear.
Okay.
Doing the intro in the beginning. The rocking his Hub City beat of Inspector 7. One Step. Yeah, that's Scoochie doing the intro. So that was on the Cleopatra comp, and that was that. I think I heard it played like in Starbucks once or twice over the years and stuff, and I don't know what became of it, but and then yeah, all of a sudden I think it was Brian from Radical Records called me and be like, hey, I don't even remember how they came across it, or
like, why didn't you just ask
Madness? It was some catalog. Well, that's the thing. How did they come across that song, and B, how they come across our version of it, and C, why did they want our version of it?
Yeah.
I was perplexed, but I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And when he said, oh, we want you talking about one of our songs being in a movie, and I thought he wanted an actual Inspector 7 song, and it was going to be in some like indie flick. Yeah. Right. That's where, when I found out what it was actually for, a Martin Scorsese film, and it was our cover of One Step Beyond, I was like, huh? So they want a cover of a cover for this Martin Scorsese flick. I'm like, this is like, dang, this is science fiction. What's going on? But obviously I was all about it because it was a wonderful thing. The irony of that is that, all that came together as, Giuseppe and I were parting ways, and everything, And so I guess that helped the new version of I7 as well, as far as getting the name out there. But yeah, that just came together very, very bizarrely. It was odd.
Weird. So,
but hey, so be it.
Yeah. So you guys released your new album last year, Haters Dozen. That was, I think it's the best album to date. I love Keeper's Phantom. Are you guys? I thought I saw you guys. You were recording stuff this in the spring. Are you guys doing a new album soon already, or?
Yeah. So we're looking to release this year, basically a 15-year anniversary acknowledgement of our first album, Blood, Sweat, and Beers.
Okay.
We're going to call it Blood, Sweat, and Years. Now, initially, since we have our megaliths, our first 3 records we have now, we have Blood, Sweat, and Beers, Mass Appeal, and Dirty Jersey, since megaliths kind of like no more in the sense of distributing other bands and stuff. So that's all ours. So initially I was just thinking, let's just re-release it, maybe remaster it, the old one, this and that. But I was like, in 2 things. I was like, the way we perform those songs live sounds so much different now with this lineup and everything. And, it's very tight and I don't know, it just sounds different. B, the production of last year's record made me think twice too. I was just like, what if we like re-recorded all the songs with the way that album sounded? It's like, can you imagine? So that's what we decided to do. So we're re-recording most of the songs. We selected some, not all the songs, but most of them are going to be on there. Plus all the Mass Appeal songs are going to be on there. Plus some unreleased stuff, some new and unreleased stuff that we're going to put on there. So it's going to be very cool. We're looking to get it out, this year, fall or winter.
Are you going to do the same label as last year?
Yes. It's also going to be on Altercation. Yep.
Okay. Is that your own label or is that?
No, that is not our own. Definitely not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's run out of it's upstate New York and Austin, but
okay,
it's not our label. Yeah, we worked with them on some live shows and stuff in the past. This guy Travis Myers, the East Coast contact. He ran a couple of venues who we worked with and did some comps and stuff. And he's a good guy to work with. So we had that conversation about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I'm glad we did because Haters Dozen was the result. So.
Have you ever done a live album before?
No, we've talked about it about 100 times.
Yeah.
Reggae Bob's ready. He's ready to do a live album. He has it all planned out, the sound, everything. He has it plotted, but he's continually frustrated. We haven't done it yet. It's inevitable. We have to do a live album sometime. It'd be fun. It's just the live show is fun, and there's a lot of shenanigans and interaction and stuff that happens. I think should be captured as well.
All right, since we're kind of winding down here, I think we got to get to bed soon. But so what do you have in terms of tour dates for the rest of the year, or for the summer and fall?
Well, the summer we're staying. We did that West Coast thing, and we're staying kind of northeasty for most of the summer. We have Radicsfest on Friday, which is a doozy, which we're thrilled about.
And then every day that you get all these bands together for one in Manhattan too. Yeah.
What year is it again? What?
Yeah.
Jeez, go figure. Yeah, it's not even in Brooklyn. It's in Manhattan. Go figure.
Yeah.
And then we have Trenton, Mill Hill Basement in Trenton. We have we're playing one of Travis Myers, the Altercation guy. We're playing his club, Snapper McGee's, up in Kingston, New York.
Okay.
And then, speaking of throwbacks, we are playing with Bim Scala Bim up in Ithaca at the Haunt on Saturday the 3rd. Yeah, I haven't been there in years, but that's going to be fun.
Did it move? Because I feel like it used to be like in downtown, like Ithaca.
I have not been to the Haunt since my sister went to college there up in Ithaca, and I caught some shows there. I saw Bigger Thomas up there, actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, back then.
My first time was because I went to school in Keystone College outside of Scranton, so you would drive the 2 hours up that way, and then we saw Mephistopheles once. So we were hanging out with Brendog at the bar one time, and and then we saw the Pilfers there, and then we ended up. My idiot brother drove over the parking lot sidewalk and busted our oil pans. We got stuck in Ithaca.
Well, it's a very nice town to get stuck in.
Yeah.
Tell you that much.
And parents had to drive 3 hours, I guess.
But we have those going on. We're playing Midwest Live and Loud Fest in Chicago at the Cobra Lounge on Labor Day weekend. That's Saturday, the August 31st, I think that is.
Around that time, yeah.
So that's always an amazing show. All 3 nights. Even the pre-show on Thursday, and then all 3 nights are always like awesome. Those guys Fierce City guys do a great job out there. And then we'll have some more Northeast stuff. Rochester, New York. Playing with the Toasters at the Chamonix Creek Brewery. We're playing an Altercation Fest up in Poughkeepsie. Hit up our event page. And
Where in Poughkeepsie?
Oh, it's
not the Chance though, right?
It's not. It's. I think it's at actually a Mexican place that does shows.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I think it's Sunday the 15th of September.
Okay.
And then we're going to England.
Right. I was going to ask about that.
Specialized. Yeah. November 8th, Friday, November 8th, we'll be playing Specialized.
Is
the big one 8. Yes, they are. Yes,
because you got 2 of the members in the band, so you guys.
I know, nice, easy travel, right?
Now you guys are now it's like the Meth Inspector 7 thing. Now it's Rude Boy George and Hub City Stompers because you guys got the same.
Well, we just what's that? We have bands either playing in. I mean, we have members playing in or supporting so many bands. It's hilarious. Yeah. You'll see some HCS and Pie Tasters, Meth, Rude Boy George.
Yeah,
we're everywhere.
Are you guys doing a song for Specialized for the newest?
Yes, we are.
Which one what are they covering this year?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I want to tell you or just want to wait because it'll be a direct irony to this interview.
Oh yeah.
So part of me wants to tell you, and part of me wants to just let people wait and see what we do. I say wait and see. Wait and see what two-tone song are we going to do?
One step beyond.
Wouldn't that be something? Can you imagine that if we did that? That'd be crazy, huh?
All right. Well, I think that's would be a good spot.
And Mexico. We're gonna play Sky Wars Mexico in December.
Oh, okay, cool.
Monterrey and Mexico City. So
that's gotta be fun.
Nice way to close out the year.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks a lot for doing this. We finally got the chance.
Oh wait, one last thing.
Oh wait. What?
I now that I'm on the podcast, I'm going to refute Cooley Rank's assertion that Roger and I dropped the ball on the New Jersey show. That's baloney.
Oh, you listen?
Yes, I listen. I have the email thread. I referred you guys to the venues as was suggested, and then nothing came of it.
Yeah.
Roger and I dropped no ball. I wanted to state that for the record.
Cooley,
I'll see you Friday.
Yeah. Radicsfest, Gramercy Theatre, be there.
It's going to be off the chain. It's going to be off the cheese nips.
If only we can figure out the right fucking set times.
I think we got it figured out. Okay, doors are at 6. That's all you need to know.
Tophers aren't playing 12 hours.
They will. Well, can you imagine though?
Well, Cooley does talk a lot.
I was going to say they're not going to play 12 hours. Who are they? HCS.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for doing this.
All right, my man. I will see you Friday.
All right, see ya. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.